Welcome back, everyone. Second half, episode number 13, Fractured Orders. Sorry, my throat's a little dry. I ate some delicious Thanksgiving mashed potatoes on the break. They were yummy. Delicious. So, without further ado, let's jump back into it and see if anyone has made a plan yet. Or maybe I can push them down a certain path. We'll see what happens.
With Janice, and they did, and that wasn't so. Definitely being more cautious on. There's two sides here. Which side are we on?
Yeah, and especially now, where one of the sides is related to Jackson, one of the sides are related to what Mouse wants to do.
Yeah, exactly.
The thing is, if I prevent an assassination, then I'm gonna be targeted by your people. So that's going to be a problem.
We don't know that.
No,
you're making massive assumptions.
Probably not. Yeah.
As a player.
Our people, both. Yeah, my people. Yeah.
So, do you want Mouse to teach them a lesson, not necessarily, take them out?
Yeah.
And Arcanus also wants
us to stop. Yeah, as far as we're aware so far. They want us to stop the attack.
Yeah.
They just said teach him a lesson. I could teach him anything. I could be like, here's how you use the spanner.
Blaster.
Yeah.
Here's how you not
perfect
be
scrambled
corrupt.
dewback eggs.
To be clear, Mouse, you got the impression that they would almost rather they be embarrassed. Like, be ridiculed and embarrassed as opposed to killed.
Yeah, that stormtrooper nerd is probably shitting his pants, and I think he's hired.
Right.
Assassin.
Yeah. In fact, that is that's definitely a thing that may be occurring. Thinking that he may have set something off or whatever.
He has to know that wasn't me, because
I don't know. That's a great bargaining chip going forward.
Because
he knows what you can do.
Meeting with him.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, one of us, if sneaky, could air dirty laundry.
So, have we selected a primary target, or is it a divide and conquer?
No, we're gonna split up. We're gonna
split the party.
Okay, good.
And conquer.
We're gonna be in constant communication, and Zian's gonna be in the library doing the research based off the information we feed him.
I like when the whole party is split up. That makes it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It makes it hard on you, but.
No, I was gonna say it makes it hard on you guys. But yeah, sure.
Basically, what we're thinking is, if we all follow different persons, we will have a better chance of seeing whoever's possible.
Right. And Zian, I assume that you're gonna go visit your little Twi'lek librarian to see if she might have any more insight into what's going on here. Which is probably a good call. So let's start there before the rest of the crew we get to what they're doing and who they're following and all that other fun stuff. So you go back to the library, the archives that you were at, and while they are not as extensive as some locations, I think that as soon as you kind of walk in, you're recognized very quickly. And what was her name again?
I have it written down.
Yeah.
Uonun. I don't know how you pronounce it.
Unon. Unon. Yeah, there it is. Uonun. Yeah. So Unon, she comes up to you very quickly, and she probably got a big smile on her face, and she says, "Oh, it's so wonderful to see you again. Did you forget something, or is there something else you need?"
No, I didn't forget anything. I actually think I could use your help again.
Oh, yes, of course. What is it? What is it about? What is it about? More locations? I've been looking since you left. I haven't been able to find anything else, but I've reached out to some friends. I might be able to find some other places that might be what you're looking for.
Oh, well, thank you so much for that. It's actually something else that you might be a little more familiar with because I presume you're from around here, right?
Yeah. I grew up in a valley.
And I'll kind of like, do you know anything about? And I'll just rattle off those 4 names.
Yeah, so you say Paula Delgado, and her eyes immediately like light up, and she's like, "Oh, Miss Gaudio is very, very infamous. Well, not infamous, that's the wrong word. Very famous around here." And she's kind of like fidgeting a little bit, like kind of nervously.
Yeah.
And she's like, she's done so many things for so many people. It's really quite amazing. Have you ever read her statements on mass weather changes and how they affect general populaces of more tropical areas? And like she starts like going in, it's very, very clear that she's like enamored by this person. So you move on to Amaranto, and she's like, "Oh yes, he's a high-ranking official in the DDF. I see him on the news sometimes when there's like crimes or something like that going on. He usually appears and does the press conferences. I recognize him by face, but I don't know a terrible lot about him." Okula, Miss Okula, I haven't seen much, although hold for a moment. And she kind of like scampers off to go find a book, and she comes back with like it's like a data chip, and you can see it's filled with like a bunch of archived like court proceedings. And she's like, "Yes, I thought I had seen that name before. She's here," and she points to like some of the archives. And it's like, it seems like she's attended, or at least had her hand in many of the modern laws we have today. A lot of them protective of the general populace. We here on Druckawell, we don't like the government interfering too much with us. We like to just kind of live our own lives. And I think that the one she points out is probably one of the more famous ones, where it's essentially preventing like governmental. It's essentially like the whole scandal with the NSA, right, in the United States was they were spying on people, and this was like she assisted greatly and kind of like fought for the reversal of that. And so like she's kind of like a hero to a lot of people in like the tech community, because they're not being monitored anymore, and you know they don't have to fear whatever they would have to fear before. So it seems like a lot of what she's involved in, or a lot of what she's been involved in, is stuff to grant the people more freedoms and less restrictions.
Yeah.
That seems to be kind of every single point of her influence.
Yeah. So I'll mention that we believe these people to be in danger, and I need to know as much as I can find out about them and see if we can kind of track down anything.
Oh, well, that's terrible to hear. It's nothing to do with the current killer, is it?
The current killer.
The current killer is directly related, right?
Yeah.
And
you know that, right? Like, no one else might know that, but you do.
There's a possibility that it's linked.
Oh, well, I heard poor Miss Kellyanne I heard they found her dead today. It's terrible news. She was a great humanitarian. She'd even visited the library once.
Sorry, point of clarification. Did we know that she was dead? I thought we just knew she was missing.
Oh no, she's dead. That was the news report. The news report is that she was found dead in her home.
Well, Stash said deceased.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's like,
I don't think I mentioned foul play, but she saw it on the news.
She'd even visited the archives once. It was a wonderful day. We had a huge book signing. Let me get one. And you see that like she runs and she grabs like it's essentially like the not memoirs, but like a stream of consciousness book, right?
Yeah.
About Kellyanne, the recently deceased, and it looks like you read the description, and it's all about how the people need to choose their own path, like. And I think that maybe you as a player, but you as a character, can begin to connect the dots and see that it seems like those two were pretty closely tied together in what they wanted to do and what their goals were, at least publicly, right?
Yeah.
More freedoms of the people, less restrictions on trade, less taxes, all that kind of stuff.
Oh.
Yeah.
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 So.
Sorry. I need to express that, like, I want to know. I want to find out, like, what these people tend to do, like where some of their favorite like hangouts might be, like if they have a particularly favorite sandwich shop they go to every lunch or anything like that, to get information to the rest of the team.
Absolutely. So why don't you roll me? Give me a check of some sort. Let's see.
I had an idea of, and I don't know if this will work, so I'm gonna look it up first. Can I use a leadership check?
Okay, in what way?
So leadership is, its description is, blah blah blah, even great heroes sometimes need the assistance of others to complete their goals. Basically...
You want to conduct Unan to help you?
Yes.
Sure.
And kind of like help lead to convey the correct information I need to convey to her, and to send her in the right direction if she's willing to help me.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. I think it's going to be an average leadership check.
Okay.
I'm going to give you a blue dice here, because she is extremely willing to help.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good. Alright, let's give this a go.
Oof.
No.
Oof, even with all those dice. Rolling is not with you guys today, for sure.
No. So I don't manage to convey what I'm trying to do, obviously, that's clear.
Yeah, and I think that your advantage here may get you some information.
Yeah.
But it won't get you, like, what you're specifically looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that Unan, she's confused, right? She's not, like, you're maybe being, like, more cryptic than you intend to be.
Right.
Because you just want to come out, you don't want to just come out and say, like, hey, maybe, we're trying to figure out about these people.
So maybe I don't convey what I'm looking for properly, she doesn't know what I'm looking for, but maybe the advantage can help direct me to maybe some books or some articles or something like that that is in the library that might be what might help me, so I could do like a research kind of action.
Yeah, I think that maybe the advantage will give you a blue dice, like, on your next, like, research check, right? If you assign it to yourself. I think that's totally fair. So I think that she's kind of like, there's not a whole lot of books. She brings, like, a lot of, like, books that have to do with their jobs or what they do, but it's not really what you're looking for. Like, it's all stuff you already know. It's all stuff you're not really sure about. But I think that if you wanted to make a this would probably be a research, probably be a you know what, this is actually probably like perception, really, like to perceive through, to dig through all of the books, because not really using your intelligence, it's more using like your powers of deduction here and reasoning to
see how good your Google foo is.
Right,
coordination
exactly.
to read two books at the same time.
Right, yeah. Totally.
This isn't World of Darkness. You can't have that one mind, two thoughts thing going.
Yeah, exactly. Oh hey, GeoForce Game Ready driver is available. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I got that as well.
Appreciate it.
Alright,
So I think it'll
so-
just be an average check, but I'm gonna add a blue dice there for you.
Okay, let's see.
Yeah.
Oh.
Perfect.
Oh.
Oh,
Wow.
Perfect.
Wow.
So
You
It's a
see
mouse
so
roll.
much.
Good job. Good job.
So you succeed in finding some information. Obviously, you have a lot of advantage there too. Which probably the advantage would probably help if you wanted to use some of it to like pass it to one of your friends with this information,
Yeah.
like pass some assistance to them.
Okay.
So your success is you find a book in particular that references both both Monica and Kellyanne in the same like breath. It's not on the cover. You flip through it, and it's written by a pretty much a no-name author, right? It's actually probably like it's one of those books that is basically just a bunch of news clippings, like a bunch of news article clippings that have been compiled together about a certain incident. And you realize that there was a humanitarian effort probably about like five years ago on the planet to revamp the way that like travel worked, so that lower income areas of the cityscapes could have more availability to public transportation. And as you flip through the book, there's a couple of pictures because it's all like news articles, right? So there's a couple of like images, and you flip through, and then you flip back a couple pages, and you see there's a photo that was taken in front of a like an outdoor cantina, and it shows both Monica and Kellyanne together in the same image, like having lunch. And it's actually it was an op piece on them, and it's probably like, you know, do they truly look out, because it's in like an upper scale area of the city, and the op-ed piece is probably like, do they truly look out for the relative safety of the common folk when they're here feasting themselves on delicious food and drink, right? Like, it was the like, who are these people that are actually fighting for you? Do they actually care, or are they just in it for themselves? Yeah, it stands out to you as significant. I think that if you research this is the triumph, obviously, is that you see this. You research the area, and you realize that it is only a couple of blocks away from like the major courthouse. So it is reasonable that it might be a hangout, or it might be a good place to find some information.
Okay. So then I will relay everything I've heard from Unan, and I will relay the information about that particular location to everybody, and kind of let them know how what the perception of these individuals is to the rest of the public.
Yeah, it is
kind of out some key similarities between them.
Yeah, they seem connected on because I think this is like what lends to Mouse why you didn't find a whole lot of information. It seems like those four people may not be connected in any way, but it definitely seems like the recent deceased and Monica are connected in some way. And so that's probably why you didn't find anything in your searches, is because you were only focusing on those four people, right? So maybe that triggers a bell in your head at some sort, or of some sort, that might be important. So, with that being done, and during the research, I heard tell that you all were selecting individuals to go shadow at the very least.
Yeah.
Now that obviously isn't set in stone. You guys can do whatever you want. This is the beauty of games. So I'll start with Jax. Jax, who was your target, quote unquote?
Police captain.
Okay, so the DDF Amaranto.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
I think unless Zian were to give information being like, this is like this is definitely like who we should be checking, I think Jax would just go ahead and
Yeah, and maybe
Yeah, and this is
maybe
all
after-
happening like simultaneously, right? Like it probably takes him a while to get that research completed.
Yeah.
So you have time to do what you want before that information comes across.
maybe after I've transferred that stuff, maybe I'll also be doing a knowledge kind of research check while they're looking and seeing if maybe, half an hour later I'll find something out.
Yeah. Absolutely.
If there's a good all of my knowledge skills are the same except for xenology, so
Yeah, it would probably be what would it be? Probably, I actually think it might be core worlds, even though this isn't like a core world. It's still like populated enough that it's close enough that it's not an outer rim check.
Civilized.
Yeah. Education might actually work too.
Yeah, education would be fair.
I probably depend for the people in government education, for the people not in government core worlds would seem to be the best.
Yeah.
So
that seems totally reasonable.
we'll start off with a education.
Cool. Yeah, and average is totally what I would want anyway. Although you do have an extra blue dice, so I'll take 2 advantage off of that.
I would argue that maybe I can get a boost for being familiar with this particular library, and maybe reducing it aids me in finding what I might need.
Fair. So yeah, Amaranto came up as a poor, kind of from a more rural area of Avali. And having been involved in like some minor things crime-wise in his early life, he really like turned a new leaf. He joined at age of 18 in the DDF, quickly rose through the ranks, and has a ton of accommodations and a ton of like clout from doing a whole lot of good police work. I think that one thing that you might find interesting, because, well, actually, maybe you don't, I don't know. Zian, do you know what Arcana Syndicate does?
No, not really.
Okay. Well, then this doesn't mean anything to you, but I assume you would relay it, and it would mean something to Jax.
I'll relay anything I find. I don't.
Yeah.
Have
So
a filter on some of that.
So Amaranto specifically was tasked. The first department he was in charge of was the counter spice trade. Basically the CSF, right? The counter spice force, which would have been in like direct opposition to everything that Arcanus does, right?
For sure.
Arcanus is big, heavy into the spice trade. So the fact that this individual, and by all accounts and purposes, if you believe Mai to be telling the truth, Jax, this individual is not an individual that would work with Arcanus. At least not without significant convincing, right? But it's kind of one of those weird things, is like, on the surface, he absolutely would never work with Arcanus, but that's the reason why he would be a perfect candidate to work with Arcanus, because nobody would ever consider him to be involved in something like that.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's probably like the educational side of things.
And I think Jax, upon getting this information from Zian, would mention looking into the the success rates of the basically point out that the anti-narcotic section of that is of interest, and looking into the success rates, and like have they had more success or less success since he got involved, things like that.
Yeah, I think that so it's obviously been way more successful. They've cleaned out and gotten like hundreds and hundreds of pounds of drugs off the streets. And I think I'm going to give you this one as a freebie, Jax, is that the Arcanus name is never mentioned in any of these busts. Typically it will say like some low-level drug dealer. It might like reference a hut or something that might have been like trying to sell drugs or whatever. It might reference some other entities that you know of that are much smaller, but there's not a single time that it ever references Arcanus.
But Arcanus is well enough known that if there was an Arcanus bust, they would publicize it.
Yeah, they have Arcanus basically controls a part of the galaxy. They're big enough.
Yeah. So Jax could be thinking to himself, okay, he's probably working with Arcanus and taking out the competition.
Maybe.
I think that's what Jax is thinking.
Yeah. So, Jax, as you have that information in hand now, what is your method of approach here?
I don't think there would be much of an approach. I think, given that he's a police figure, and what I know about him, I'd go to wherever Ziad recommended he'd be easiest to find. So maybe a precinct, or maybe he likes to have coffee at a certain place at a certain time. But I think it would start off with just standing back and observing. Jax doesn't want to tip his hand. Secondly, words aren't necessarily his strength. So
sure,
he's
you
more
just
likely
want
to figure something out by being unassuming and trying to use his perception, which he's so good at.
Yeah. Why don't you roll a perception check? I'm gonna make it average here. But I'm gonna use a dark side point because there's the potential for things to go wrong, obviously.
Cool. Can I get a boost dice because of all the information I've been getting from Zian?
Yep. His success definitely gives you a boost dice.
Sweet.
I've added that.
Ready?
Yep. Nice. Cool. So, no despair.
Yeah,
thank goodness. And the success here is going to be that over the course of the day or two that you are observing, you're able to track the movements pretty well. Amaranto is a very clockwork individual. At the same time every day he shows up at work, at the same time every day he takes his break, at the same time every day he goes home from work. It's very methodical and planned out, which makes it really easy to kind of figure out what he's doing. But probably on like the second day, there is a deviation in the plan, where he shows up at work on time, he takes his break on time, but then when it's time for him to leave, Jax, there's a delay for about probably like an hour or two until he leaves finally, and he gets into his vehicle and he gets into his speeder and he drives off. Now, if you were to follow him, which you totally could do, not a huge deal. It's up to you though. You would come across the fact that he seems to be taking like a different route home than not the most direct route, because you probably determined where he lives by now. It's not a hard thing to do in these circumstances.
Could I? So he spent an extra hour in his office, correct?
Yep.
When he goes off in his speeder, would he be? Would Jax be able to tell he's going a different direction than he did previously?
Probably not when he goes off, like not as he leaves, because it's probably the same leaving procedure.
Okay, so I'd have to follow him to know that.
Yeah. You can always call in for help as well.
No, Jax will follow him.
Okay. So as you follow him through the streets, maybe you have like a droid brain rented taxi or whatever. He makes a stop at a grocery store. It's like a small kind of non-chain grocery store, and he goes in, and a few moments later he comes back out and you can see he's got a couple of bags of groceries. And as he gets back into the vehicle, there is like a homeless man that comes up and like approaches him and like kind of proffers his hand out for some credits. And you see Amaranto, he kind of stands up and kind of looks at the man. And there's a brief conversation that's had between the two of them that you can't hear from your location. But you see the homeless man looks like very thankful. He's like clasping his hands and like thanking Amaranto. And Amaranto like walks around to the other side of the speeder. He opens the door and he lets the man get in, and then he walks around and he gets back into his speeder, and then he drives off. You continue to follow, I assume?
Definitely keep following.
Yeah. So after a few more minutes, you get to what appears to be like a soup kitchen of some sort, or like like a place to feed the homeless. And as he gets out, the elderly homeless man gets out as well, and Amaranto kind of walks him up to the door and kind of sends him on his way. And he goes and he gets back into his vehicle and he drives off. And then from there he goes straight home. But as I said, it is a strong deviation in his agenda.
Oh god, that's so suspicious, but I don't think Jax would pick up on that.
You could roll a check of some sort to pick up on the reason why that's so suspicious.
Yeah. I just don't. Okay, it would have to be perception.
Mm-hmm.
Because Jax isn't looking for something; it's whether or not he would notice something. So, I don't know what it would be.
I'd make it a hard perception check.
Yeah, let's roll that.
Yeah, sure.
I have an idea if I roll a despair as well, by the way, which I'd want to swing by you if there'd be a chance for that.
Yeah, there's definitely a free upgrade here. Just because there's a chance for something bad to happen. Okay, so you don't you don't notice why that's so suspicious. Like maybe even you think like, oh, that was like a really nice thing for him to do. Like, he drove the old homeless man to the soup kitchen.
Yeah, I think Jax would view that entire thing as, if anything, maybe this guy like isn't that bad, but I think at this stage Jax would probably come Mouse.
Okay.
And see how Mouse was doing with her search, and potentially if Mouse was available, try to break into the office to see if maybe he could figure out why he was in the office an hour late.
Sure. Let's find out where Mouse is then. So Mouse, who is your target? Who were you intending to go?
I mean, I didn't
find
really,
information on.
Yeah, I didn't really care who I was going for because we were all going for someone.
So maybe you're available for this if you wanted to be. And then
I think I was going for someone. So
okay.
Just do the scientist.
Yeah, I guess Paola.
Yeah.
Paola.
So yeah, Paola is she's works for the government, but is essentially a civilian, right? She's not like a ranked official or anything like that. So what kind of research or vision do you have on her? Obviously, it's very easy for you to kind of move in and around places.
Yeah.
So what's your approach here?
I wouldn't try to get like too close, so I guess I would watch from a distance, like kind of her comings and goings and stuff like that.
Find out where she works and then see where she comes and goes and that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that why don't you go ahead and roll me your perception check?
Sure.
I'm not giving it an upgrade here. It is going to be an average check.
Okay.
Because this is simply just to observe the comings and goings, like you said.
Yeah.
See how good at that you are. Okay. So you take a strain, probably because like you're not. It's not the easiest of situations to be involved in here.
Sorry. Should I have taken a strain from my perception check?
I didn't, because you got those two advantage before, so I just eliminated.
Okay. Cool.
So yeah, take the strain, and I think that the case here is you do succeed. So Paola has a very erratic schedule, almost completely opposite of what Amaranto does. So Paola, she is very back and forth. Like sometimes she's outside and you can see her like talking on a communicator, and then she like has coffee, and when she sees somebody like walking by, like walking into the building, she'll sit there and talk with them for a very long time. Sometimes she'll come and she'll actually like work outside. You'll see her like bring some data and stuff and like go through it while she sips coffee. And I think that is kind of the general theme, is like she seems to be caffeinated all the time. just like constantly caffeinated. She always has either like some sort of energy drink or some sort of like coffee beverage or some sort of something in her hands, like at all times, no matter when you observe her.
So out of character, this is totally like in
Did I
line
just
with
describe
people,
you?
Yeah, for
Okay.
people who are in tech and stuff like that, me and
Yeah.
other people like that.
It's almost like I'm really good at knowing these things.
Yeah, like so, but in character,
Yeah.
Mouse would not know that. So I think Mouse would kind of pick that up as like a clue and think that perhaps she has some extracurricular things going on, because if she's tired all the time and she needs energy
Right.
drinks, like
Yeah.
there's something else in the works. So I think possibly following her, like tailing her basically.
Yeah, and I think that the interesting thing here is that probably the first day you're like tailing her or whatever, you witness all of these like comings and goings, and then you realize like the sun is set and it's late. It's like almost midnight, perhaps, on the planet.
Mhm.
And she still appears to be like working. And eventually you see she comes out, and she appears to be like the last one coming out of the building that she works in, because she like pulls out a set of keys and like locks the door or types in a keypad to secure the door as she leaves. And she's kind of like walking over to her speeder, and she does the thing where like she checks a time, and like even depending on how far away you are, but it doesn't matter, you can just see the like the sigh, right, of like, it's so late. And she gets over to the speeder. I think that the first thing you realize is her speeder, this being the first time you've seen it, is immaculate. Like, a thing they don't talk a whole lot about in Star Wars is like how luxury things are. This is a luxury speeder. Like, it probably drives itself with a droid brain, and you can see that like it's all kind of blacked out, and it'd be very easy for someone to like just get in there and relax. I think you can see like as the door opens, you can see like there's like the seats are like upholstered and they're beautiful, and it's totally enclosed as well. And you as a mechanic, in fact, if you want to roll a mechanics check,
I sure can.
yeah, you can do that. It's going to be an average check here. But since you can't actually physically interact with it and like look at it, you got to go off like specs and stuff like that, which I'm going to add a black dice.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Nice.
Take
Doesn't
that.
matter.
I also
So
ignore that black dice, by the way. So
true. Well, it was blank anyway, so it works. So yeah, you know that this speeder is it's top of the line. It's probably made by a company named Moreto. And the Moreto company they're essentially like the Lamborghini Ferrari, right? If you were to equate it to something that like you see every once in a while, and only someone who's like terribly rich can own one and not be bankrupt.
yeah. So this is definitely falling in line with like what I've
like the suspicion, the accusation that's been made. Because anyone who works for the government will know that they pay you, but it's not enough to buy yourself a Lamborghini or a Ferrari, no matter what level you're at, really.
But I'm not exactly sure, because I think maybe like there might be something on the side going on. Like, I don't think she's funneling necessarily, but I think she might be.
Right, but there's definitely like the car vastly outweighs her position. Is what I'm getting at here.
And I think that's probably where the person like came up with the accusation.
Yeah, perhaps.
Just based on like, oh, they have this nice car, but they might not have done the research.
Right. Yeah, and that's what you're here to do, right?
Yeah.
So as you're gonna tailor for a while, and you can totally do that, and as you do, you get to her accommodations, and it's at a reasonably large like living, because nobody really owns houses in Star Wars, right? Like, that's not a thing unless you live on a desolate planet. You don't really own a house. You basically live in a nice apartment or not. Or like even maybe a townhouse or something like that. But as she arrives, you can tell it's a pretty upscale building, but it is not as unreasonable as her vehicle is. And she checks in the vehicle with the valet, and she's still got like a coffee in her hand, like as she gets out, right? And it's pushing 1 a.m. in the morning now.
Right.
And as she enters into the building, you can see that there's security on the building. So you're not 100% sure where she goes, and it does look like they are monitoring heavily what goes like in and out of the building. Do you want to follow her further than that?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to. This is like, is it a residential building?
Yeah, so it's essentially like a nice apartment, except imagine it more like, it's almost more like a hotel where it's all kind of indoors. You can see that there's balconies that kind of line the sides of the very tall building that you're outside.
I mean, I'd like to get in.
Yeah.
To it. So I guess I'd need to sneak in.
Well,
because there seems to be somebody watching the door,
they're not barring entry at any point, but it does appear that they are taking significant note of anyone who comes in and out. So the danger here is getting marked, right? Like, it depend. Are you carrying your rifle with you? Like, there's all this.
That's kind of what I want to do, is like carry the rifle with me. And I know it's not restricted or anything, but I don't want to get like...
Right, but somebody, these guys are here for the safety of the residents, and if they're like, that's a pretty nice blaster rifle to be bringing into a home. We don't recognize you. So, like, that's probably the danger here. They may not stop you physically, but they may take note of your existence.
Yeah. So I guess I'd want to find another way in.
Okay, yeah. So as you kind of meander about, you see that while she gave her vehicle to the valet, there appears to be like an underground garage where other residents can park their vehicles. Now there's an attendant, there's like a security officer at the like little booth there. But as you approach, you realize that it's actually like an automated droid attendant. Mm-hmm. And there doesn't appear to be any of those like, bodyguards or anything outside here.
Right.
But it seems like a fairly reasonable entry point. In fact, I think that as you're maybe monitoring it, you can see that there are like delivery and service trucks that kind of come in and out occasionally. Yeah. And it appears like the droid like checks them, like scans the tag or whatever, and then lets them on through, or checks the system for whatever. But it doesn't appear to be like terribly secured.
So I guess I'd like to try to get a tag then, like not necessarily carry something big and heavy, but like grab a tag off of it.
Yeah.
How advanced do these droids seem? Do they seem to be like actually taking note of what's being carried in, or are they just...
Yeah, so again, since on Drunkenwell, every droid is for a very specific purpose, this droid specifically seems to be monitoring what vehicles are coming in and out. It doesn't appear to be monitoring any type of equipment or anything like that. It just seems to be, its designation seems to be, monitor each and every vehicle that comes in and out of this garage.
And in order to do that, it's scanning tags.
Right. In order to do that, it's scanning a vehicle and saying it's probably gets like, it's this vehicle, this tag number, and then like approve or disapprove depending on the system. There may be some system that works where, there's people that are approved or disapproved, but maybe not. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to handle it, because it's not recognizing anything. I guess that's the confirmation. Like, if I were to just grab a tag and like have it scan it, it wouldn't recognize that I was walking in.
It does not appear that it is taking down like personal demographics.
Okay. So yeah, I think that's probably the best way to handle it, is to like swipe a tag from somewhere and then just try to walk in.
Okay. Yeah, so reasonably, like, the most sure way that it would happen is if you find a vehicle that's on its way out.
Yeah.
You could get that tag because it's allowed in, right? Like, that's the key here.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you could totally do that. So your approach to that is what exactly? You're gonna like rig something up? Like, is this gonna be the Ocean's 11 moment where you rig up like the grav to stop working, and then like the person gets out and like has to try and fix their like raises up the hood, and while they do that, you pull the tag off, or like
exactly?
Yeah,
I think there's probably like
okay.
I don't know, maybe something to stop them, like a gate or something.
Yeah, like some
would be, like,
barricades,
malfunction.
or that they have to go. Yeah, okay, all right.
Do I actually have that skill where I can just cause something to fail?
Yeah, because I know that that's actually like a mechanic skill that exists. So while you're setting all that up,
but I can still do it. But
so while you're setting all that up, I wanna jump over to Kin as well, because Kin has something that he's doing here at the same time. So Kin, hello.